All right, guys, welcome back to Hypnovision Studios. I am your host, Nicholas, but today I'm going off the cuff. There's no script, no idea for me to start this video with, and I want to invite everyone, if it's your first time coming to my channel, to say hi, drop a comment, let me know where you're from. You don't have to give me all your details, just keep it on a first name basis, maybe just what state you're in, or what country you're in for that matter. I do know that I reach many different countries, so that would be interesting to have some of you from other countries just drop a hi or any kind of emoji or something just to let me know that you're out there. So today, I just really want to go through a few things, kind of respond to some of the comments I've recently had. One person was asking me about the fill-ins. This is in connection to Neville Goddard's work. The fill-in is the secret. And the question was, do I have to say it out loud or can I think it mentally in order to achieve what I was talking about in regards to the fill-in? And to be direct and honest about this, either way is fine. But the truth is, the spoken word is much more powerful because it creates a vibration that is stronger than the mental thought. Yes, you can hear the thoughts, right? We've talked about this before, but it's worth mentioning again. If you zip your lips and you think it, you can still hear it, even though it's not audible to the outside ears. You can still hear those thoughts. So thought does have the power to create the fill-ins. But when you start to speak, you're creating a resonant tone within your chest cavity. And if you pull from your diaphragm, I learned this in band camp many years ago when I was still in high school. Our band teacher used to say, from the diaphragm, from the bottom of your lungs, from the diaphragm, to get the full range and relax your throat, allow the sound to come out. So either way can get you to the fill-in, but the bolder you get with using your voice and allowing yourself to really allow those fill-ins to come out. Maybe you start with the thoughts, I feel the emotions of gratitude. I feel the emotions of gratitude. And you just say it over and over in your head many times. And then when you get in a place where you're all alone, I feel the emotions of gratitude. I am so happy and grateful. Every hair is standing up on my arms and I just got hit with a wave of goosebumps. Now I can also tell you, when I reflect back on those days in the band, I remember standing on the 50-yard line and looking way up at the skybox. The sound inside of that stadium bouncing off of those bleachers, it was like a sound bowl. When we look at sound healing and we look at these bowls for resonant frequency or either tuning forks, that's what it felt like. And when the whole band was at full volume, it was very electrifying. So never underestimate the power of your voice. And when you use it over your life, you can create change within the body that will ultimately manifest its way outwardly. This is the inside outside or introverted extroverted. What first happens inside will eventually make its way outside. And if you understand that very simple concept and you reverse it, then you also understand that being in environments where you are hearing things, maybe you're around toxic people, for example. This is just an example. Listening and being around that energy eventually does make its way into your ears. Eventually it does make its way into your mind and is converted into electrical impulses. Now it is inside of your body. Now it is gone into the inner dimensions of your body. That's very interesting when we think about things like that. So protect your energy, but don't assume that you are just around a bunch of toxic people. That's not what I'm saying here. I just wanted to use that as an example. So if you want to be a millionaire, you have to surround yourself with people who have a millionaire mindset, who think like a millionaire, who feel like $1,000,000. And you have to learn to do the same type things that they do. One of the things is time management, and value for exchange of time. Those are really big factors that you have to consider. Now, sure, some people can start off in a family system that already has billions of dollars. That's not what I'm talking about here. There are self made millionaires that have come from poor families. And these people went out and made it happen because of that inner self talk, that inner drive, that inner purpose, and the inner why. Once you know why you are doing something, then you have a different paradigm to play from. It changes everything. It's like the X and the Y axis that I've spoke about before in another video. X marks the spot, but if you don't know why it does, then does it really have meaning? So for me, I always kind of use DJing as an example. I simply was so fascinated by the idea of mixing two songs together the first time I ever experienced even what a DJ was, or turntables for that example. I was instantly fell in love with it, instantly just consumed with the whole idea of like, wow, what would this song sound like with this song? But what if this song and this song? That's how it started for me. It was just such a all immersive experience where I could just go and lock myself in the bedroom and practice for hours and hours and hours and never get bored. So that is kind of what I'm saying. When you find your why in life, it's almost, dare I even say and use this word, it's like an addiction or obsession. But to have a healthy one that is purposeful and meaningful is different than when you typically think of someone having an addiction. You think of drugs or alcohol or some other kind of addiction that's like an affliction. So you can absolutely become addicted to your why, your purpose. And it is hard for anyone to pull you off course if you are in the flow. And that is something that I want to touch off here as I kind of transition away from what I was just talking about, is people trying to pull on your emotions. Have you ever heard the saying, misery loves company? That saying, as it turns out, I experienced in my life in such a profound way. It was eye-opening, and I'll just kind of dive into this and share with all of you what exactly I mean. If I go back to the beginning where I was speaking about someone commenting and asking about the feelings, I am so happy and grateful. Do I need to say it quietly in my head or speak it out loud? This is what I'm talking about. Because for me, when I went through this initial phase of shedding my old self, my old thought patterns, as it turns out, the human mind has 70 to 80,000 thought patterns or repeating thoughts every single day. And those are 80% from the day before. So if you're having that many thoughts every single day and 80% are from the day before, then how much progress or how much newness is in your life if you keep repeating the same patterns over and over and over and over? That is what I'm trying to get at. So when I finally had this grand awakening, if you want to call it that, spiritual awakening, emotional awakening, mentally breaking myself free, ever how you want to frame that, it was like having my eyes open for the first time. Being able to feel certain emotional ranges that I have not felt in years. Extreme abundance of happiness, extreme joy, just extremely running over. That is what I experienced. But as time went on, I found a lot of people that I didn't know starting to be attracted to me. I even went into Walmart one day and this random lady stopped, looked at me, and she growled. What was that? I had a lot of strange experiences during this time. People just randomly noticing me. And, they say that when a person goes through these stages, They become like a magnet. They become like this aura-filled magnet. And people who have a lot of trauma within them are attracted to what they call light workers. And so in hindsight, I kind of see it now, but at the time I didn't. At the time, I was experiencing what for the first time in my life was what it truly feels like to be happy and not worry about any kind of outcome. I was emotionally detached from everything. Happy for myself, happy for life, just happy in general. For so long up until that point, my boundaries were so weak that whole saying, misery loves company. I used to feel bad for people. And then I used to let other people make me feel bad. And that is really what I mean when I experienced misery loves company. I'm not saying you can't be compassionate towards people. I'm not saying that you can't try to understand what someone is going through when they're going through a hardship. Because you absolutely can. You can understand why they feel the way they do. But for someone like me who had weak boundaries, I would end up absorbing that energy, taking on and making their emotional baggage my emotional baggage. And that was very revealing. And it is something that time has had to reveal to me, because just like being at the base of a mountain, you cannot see the grand scale of the mountain standing at the base or the valley that the mountain overlooks. Only when you back away can you see the grand scale of the mountain. Or if you're on the mountain top, can you see the vast valley below? So time is one of those things that helps reveal certain things to us. And time is a funny concept. Because what is time? How do we measure the passage of time other than a clock? Or either how the ancient civilizations did with sundials and the shades that was cast from the sun onto the dial. So we used to track the sun and the time of day by shadows. Makes me think of Peter Pan and the shadows. I don't know if you guys remember the movie Peter Pan, the original cartoon that Disney had. The shadows and Peter Pan, the boy that never wanted to grow up. We live in a society of things, a society of illusions and confusion. You're not somebody unless you have all of these material things. And to be happy for life without the worry of the outcome, without the worry of what if, for that span of my life was very eye-opening, and it was like being in heaven on earth. And what I found was getting around certain people, it irritated them, because I'm not in a state or a mindset of worry. I'm not in a scarcity mindset. So of course, if you don't have anything to talk about with a person, there's really no connection there. So that is something that was revealed to me when I experienced this. There's really no alignment there. If you want to talk about X, Y, and Z, and I'm not even on that same wavelength anymore, it doesn't matter to me. I'm not worried about those things. I can actually see, and I'll use this example from the Dave Ramsey show, and it's one of those things that has stuck with me for such a long time, which is why I often have used this example. Dave Ramsey, for those of you that don't know who he is, had someone call into his show. He's a financial guru. He's someone who was a millionaire who went bankrupt and then turned it around and became a millionaire again. And now he has a whole outfit. So part of that is a daily show. And he had someone call in and they were emotionally distraught. Dave, from his point of view, could see that this is a math problem, right? You have more money going out than you have coming in. For him, it's numbers, right? You have an equation problem in math. You cannot spend more than you bring in. But the woman, so in her emotions, that feeling internally of doubt, worry, you would call these lower vibrational thoughts, were overwhelming her thought process, and therefore she could not see the solution because she was in the emotional attachment of the problem. Fear of the unknown. Fear of what if this doesn't work out? But what if it does? This was the evolution for me of understanding the self-talk and how I was seeing things, how I was perceiving my own reality, not what others were telling me the reality was. Which brings me to something else. Going back to Neville Goddard for just a minute. There is a saying, and I can't remember which one of the books it is, that everything external is only commentary. And it makes a lot of sense. People are always commenting about different things. Oh, look at this, look at that, look at this, look at that. Well, I don't like this, but I like that, and this is good and that is bad, and all kinds of things. So it is like commentary. But the commentary that most people don't listen to is this and this. They don't follow their intuition. They don't listen to their gut instinct. They don't really take time to think. What is the average reaction time when someone's talking to you? Do you pause for 2 or 3 seconds? Allow yourself to take it in and see the vision. That is something that is very, very eye-opening. If you think of it as a mental practice, right? We as humans, pardon me for just a minute, I'm trying to get my legs situated here. We as humans love to tell stories. There's the classic example of the exaggerated fish that the fisherman caught, right? It was this big, but the story, it was this big. So we humans love to tell stories and we love to exaggerate. But when it comes to gossip, we also like to exaggerate also. One of the things that I didn't pay a lot of attention to before, previously, but I very clearly do see now, is when people are telling some of these stories, when they're talking about somebody else's downfall or something that they're going through that is negative, but they are actually telling the story and very happily to do it. This was very, very eye-opening. I was like, holy shit. You're actually getting joy from watching someone else suffer. Wow. My mind was just like, why didn't I see that before? Why didn't I really truly see that before? It was always there. But again, misery loves company. It's very, very, very thought-provoking when you sit there and you kind of look at it that way. What will also happen with these type situations is if person A is talking about the turmoil that person B is going through or something stupid that person B did, person A would be like, yeah, did you hear about what happened to so-and-so? If it were me, I would have da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But it's not you. You're telling someone else's business. Again, the saying, the classic saying, mind your business, right? You are the business. So take control of your executive function. And if you know anything about the brain, the executive functions are right in the prefrontal cortex of the brain. Executive functions, 1, and then 2 hemispheres, 2, 3. Just like our government. You have the Democrats, the Republicans, and then you have the executive branch sitting right in the middle. Inside, outside. It's simply amazing if you ask me. But our whole modern life is built on reality TV. And reality TV evolved from mass TV that was held by 6 companies. That's right, 6 companies used to control all of the media outlets. And social media has changed that, but there is still a lot of struggles between narratives when it becomes a mainstream narrative. Who gets to say what free speech is? Who gets to say what truth is? Who gets to say what's right and wrong when it becomes a decision on a popular grand scale of things? That's when it becomes a problem and people will start to tug a war. Excuse me. Very interesting stuff. So how does all of this even relate back to the feelings? Because if we understand this one very basic, simple thing, emotions are energy. And Neville Goddard's work says we filter our perception through our emotions. And when I think about it, misery loves company. A lot of people probably won't openly admit this if you were to ask them, how do they feel? So that's why it's secret. People don't talk about their feelings. They tell you what they think. And if you're paying attention to what they say and how they are emotionally or their behavior is, then you can most certainly tell what's hidden beneath the surface. And that I find to be very intriguing. So learning to be honest with yourself, even if you don't have to go around tell people all your deepest secrets that you wish you could just talk to someone about. You know, I experienced such and such in my life, but I've always been so afraid to tell someone because I don't know what they're going to think. It doesn't matter what they think because we have 70 to 80,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of those are from the day before. So are we really like reaching a point of clairvoyance with someone else? Because more than likely, they are not fully present. They are not fully consciously aware. They are still operating in a system of programmed thoughts, living someone else's dream, telling someone else's story, repeating someone else's downfall, all while hoping and praying that they are never fully seen for who they are. Hello, take your mask off. I did that 3 years ago. Very openly have talked about this on my channel. To take my mask off and shine my light. I was that very person who could be on a stage but still have experienced things in my life that I was afraid to tell people about. This channel changed everything. I could have never envisioned myself sitting here in front of a camera, looking directly into the lens and openly and honestly expressing myself. Not just simply thoughts, but those expressions are coming from the diaphragm, from deep within my body. So when I say, I am so happy and grateful because I feel, you know that I am legit. You know that I am genuine. So I'm telling you that you can absolutely break free from those 70 to 80,000 repeated thoughts a day. You can become your dream. You can become a different version of you because there are infinite versions that can be fulfilled internally. I want to share something before I end this video, and this is something I just was doodling around one day and drew. It's not a highly graphic image, but one side shows the imagination, the other side is the sun, and this kind of gives a breakdown over here from the imagination I am, and then breaks down to different sides: mother, father, sister, brother, friends, and family, and pleasure, and ego, and ultimately how we identify with the outside world. But on the other side, it says an object is simply an object until we form feeling about it. We either feel good or we feel bad. The object remains the same, but the feeling changes based on our perception. Wow. Are you thinking of something at the moment that you really don't have a feeling about? I don't feel one way or another about this or that. But there are other things that I should probably see the same way that I've formed strong feelings about. Perhaps the person who is telling someone else's story, you formed a feeling around that. So then when you see that person that this person was telling a story about, you have already formulated feelings around it. Perhaps this person, let's call it person A, said that person B was a bad person. And then you see person B, and you have already predetermined in your mind, based upon the story that you were told, that person B is a bad person. And therefore, the way you treat that person is based upon a story that person A told you that was exaggerated. You see where I'm going with this? So it's very important to have a level of self-awareness and to actually slow your response time down, even if it's just 2 or 3 seconds, to just kind of let it sink in before you respond. And I promise you, it will start to change your life in ways you can't even imagine in this moment until you have done it. And then some time has gone by and you're like, wow, I can't believe that I used to respond in certain ways because I was programmed and I had repeated that so many times it had become second nature, which meant I didn't think about it. It bypassed my conscious mind and went straight to my auto response. This is the way I've been operating for so many years. When somebody says this to me, it is like a keyword for me to give a certain response. That is some of that hidden suggestive programming that I've talked about in my previous couple videos with the colors and the subconscious and how we can reframe our story. That same suggestive programming is all around us all the time. And you don't have to become traumatized, like fully lifting the veil and seeing it for what it is and then like going into hermit and never leaving home again. That's not what I'm saying. But having a level of awareness where you're like Neo from the Matrix, and now you're going around, above and beyond, and navigating around these different mind traps, emotional bondage. Misery loves company. Some people love sob stories. If they can get you to feel bad for them, wow. Sorry about that. Then they have emotionally hooked you into a feeling, a story, and make you feel bad for them. And if that becomes something that that person does over and over, then they will go around and do that to everyone they meet. They will try to elicit, emotionally hook you into feeling bad for them. And then, because you feel bad for them, now you have some sense of responsibility for helping them or saving them. That becomes a very slippery slope, because if you try to set a boundary, all of a sudden you're the bad guy because of that original story that you bought into, agreed to play that role in. Life is indeed role play. And when you understand that imagination is pure energy, right? Pure energy. Then you understand that life is theater and we play many different roles throughout life. Sometimes we are not aware of the roles that we are being asked to play. Sometimes we are. Sometimes we are the ones asking others to play roles in our lives. So when you have the conscious choice, and I've said many times, writing is the most powerful form of manifestation because it allows us to put our thoughts on paper and then gives us the chance to reorganize and reframe those thoughts. So if I was going to be the author of my own life story, then I would want to write a beautiful story. I would want to write a story that is mutual, that has purpose, that gives me a fulfillment inside, where there is equal give and take, and where every day is not always going to be perfect. But instead of being fake positive, I have optimism that the future is bright. Every day I'm closer to my bigger dreams, my bigger goals, or seeing other people succeed in their life. But before I can do that, I have to navigate myself into position in order to make that happen. In order to play that role at that moment in time, I have to be on this grand stage, or I have to be the man behind the curtain. Either way, we all are playing roles in someone else's life. I don't want to be the victim, and I'm sure that neither do you. I don't want to be the runner, the chaser, the toxic person who love bombs and trauma bonds. And you see where I'm going with this, right? I'm just using these as examples because I've gone through this deep psychological transformation myself throughout the process of this channel. And I'm very grateful that I have an audience that has showed up and watched my content and commented on my stuff and has engaged with me. So I very much appreciate every single one of you out there, even the people that have left bad comments in the past. You know, sometimes you need to hear that. Sometimes you need to hear the critics, because we ourselves are commentators on the movie, the life story, the theater of life. We all have roles to play. Just knowing what role it is that you're playing or how to get there is a very big key to understanding the why factor. I'll see you guys very soon with some more intriguing content.